Welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Your headlines in the Thames Valley this Wednesday evening. Sean's Law, more stringent checks on taxi drivers after an 11-year campaign by the family of a woman murdered in Swindon.
It's an incredibly vulnerable position to be a person on your own, in a vehicle where the driver can lock you in effectively.
Work continues around the clock to repair the Newnham Viaduct in Oxfordshire. But with rail journeys disrupted, when will it be finished?
Also tonight, we meet the archer chosen to represent Great Britain at the Sports World Cup, who now has her sights set on the Olympics.
And inspirational and internationally renowned, tributes to the pioneering surgeon retiring after saving countless lives. Good evening. The family of a murder victim has successfully campaigned for a change in the law to make checks on taxi drivers more stringent. Sian O'Callaghan was killed by Swindon cab driver Christopher Halliwell in 2011.
Well, new legislation known as Sean's Law came into force today to make better checks on drivers compulsory. Robert Murphy has this exclusive report.
Sian O'Callaghan walks from a nightclub. The 22-year-old is alone, but as she walks through Swindon's Old Town to get home, Sian does what she's been told is the right thing. She hails a cab.
The last moments you see on CCTV, which is this spot, was her not being aware of how dangerous a situation she was in. And for anyone sort of looking at the footage, you just think it's somebody getting into a taxi. But it was actually the last moments of Sian.
Christopher Halliwell, a licensed taxi driver, was behind the wheel. A man who had murdered before, hadn't been caught, and was about to kill again. Sian would be found a few days later. Halliwell is now convicted of both murders and is serving a whole life order in prison. 12 years on, and Sian's family have just fought for and won a change to the way information about taxi drivers is shared.
The situation Sian was in, a lot of other people are in. It's an incredibly vulnerable position to be a person on your own, in a vehicle where the driver can lock you in effectively, take you wherever they want to take you, which is obviously what happened to Sian. So it should be as regulated as possible.
From today, if any driver of a taxi or private hire car sexually harasses a passenger and loses their licence, this information will be shared among local authorities. So if the driver applies elsewhere, the new licensing authority will know about that allegation. The legislation is known as Sean's Law.
Hopefully no other families will have to go through a similar situation that we had to go through. That ultimately more lives are protected, that the good drivers out there are protected as well.
The driver database has been around for a while, but from today it's compulsory.
Up until this becoming mandatory, we know that there are some big licensing authorities in big urban centres who haven't been using this system, who haven't been putting data into it and who haven't been using it to check. So making it mandatory is going to make a significant difference.
It's something positive out of what's happened. Sian as a person was very much like the go-to friend for support. She was that type of person by nature who would help people.
Sian's family would like further measures like compulsory CCTV in all taxis and private hire vehicles. They say it's a legacy to a woman who spent her young life protecting others. Robert Murphy, ITV News.
A woman has been raped while walking along a path in Abingdon. The victim was in Shelley Close between 6:30 and 7 p.m. when she was approached by a man. He spoke to her briefly before assaulting her. He is described as white, possible balding or with receding hair, and was wearing a dark-coloured sweatshirt.
Several cars were damaged when a car careered down a residential street and smashed into them in Reading. It happened in the early hours of the morning on Alpine Street near the town centre. It appears the car came down the hill and hit the cars near a bend. A man who's 58 has been arrested on suspicion of driving while above the alcohol limit.
I think it's mostly just been shocked this morning and, 4 people finding out their cars have been damaged. It's a little bit worrying when someone comes over the brow of the hill and someone's coming the other way. A one-way system might make it a little better, but obviously it would have to be considered with people getting in and out of their houses and getting access to their cars.
A low-traffic neighbourhood bollard in Oxford has been removed in what the council is calling an act of vandalism. Damage to the bollard on Clive Road in Cowley was discovered on Sunday, Oxfordshire County Council said. LTNs in Oxford are intended to make residential streets safer. It's working with Thames Valley Police to find those responsible.
A mother of two from Fleet who relies on plasma donations following cancer treatment is backing a campaign calling for more donors in Reading. 41-year-old Charlotte Ralph's immune system was permanently weakened after chemotherapy. More than 1,000 new plasma donors are needed at the centre in Kings Road. Last year, more than 3,000 people from the south benefited from the support of volunteer donors.
An extra 780 police officers have been recruited into Thames Valley Police in the last 3 years. That's 175 more than the national target. Meanwhile, Hampshire has reached its target of recruiting 600 new staff. It's part of a government programme to increase the number of officers across the country.
Now, engineers say they are working around the clock to repair a railway bridge that's closed in Oxfordshire, causing disruption to thousands of commuters.
The Newnham Viaduct, which crosses the River Thames near Abingdon, was closed earlier this month after it became unstable.
Well, Network Rail says it hopes to have the line which links Oxford with Didcot and Reading reopened in early June. Mel Blore has been to visit the site to see how the work is progressing.
As far as railway bridge repairs go, this is about as complex and challenging as it gets. The proximity of the River Thames and the ground conditions at the site adding to the complications. 15-metre deep steel piles have now been driven into the clay beneath the river, which will allow engineers to jack up the bridge while the southern support structure is replaced.
Once we've got it temporary prop, we remove this whole structure, the bit of the bridge that's been causing us problems that holds the bridge up at this end. Remove that, and then when we've got that out of the way, we go into another piling operation. So bigger piles than you can see here, about 900mm diameter, these are 700, and we drive them much deeper, 20 metres deep into the ground, and that will form the permanent structure which we can then put the bridge on.
Monitoring equipment detected significant movements in the 100-year-old viaduct despite recent stabilisation works. The bridge was eventually closed 3 weeks ago for preparation work to begin. Due to its remote location, engineers are having to build a road so they can get a crane down to the site. They've also had to install a key for the barge that's being used to access the piling rig. Because of the work, all trains between Oxford and Didcot have been suspended, with replacement buses running instead. But it's not just commuters affected.
The viaduct is a key corridor for rail freight services. Around 40 freight trains ran on this route every day before its closure. So there are implications for the transportation of things like fuel and consumer goods too.
I'll apologise again. This is a very busy railway and we're very sorry for the disruption. Passengers between Oxford and London, from the Midlands to the South Coast and so on. For freight, we've diverted most of them either via London or via Cheltenham. But, you know, we're working 24/7 to get the proper service back.
According to Network Rail, the work is on schedule, which means the railway should reopen on June the 10th. Mel Blore, ITV News, Culham.
You're watching ITV News Meridian here in the Thames Valley. Still to come.
We're going to hear from the archery star representing Great Britain in the Sports World Cup, who also has her eyes on the Olympics.
And after another fairly chilly day, I'll be warming things up with some of your wildlife pictures and a pretty decent bank holiday forecast.
About time to. Pip will be here. And remember, you can find more on today's stories by heading to our website. That's itv.com/Meridian. You can give us a ring on 0808 1010 095. You can also follow us if you'd like on Facebook, Twitter and on Instagram.
There are calls for steps to be taken to increase the number of male teachers. In the Meridian region, more than a quarter of state-funded schools have no men teaching.
Well, some experts argue that this means youngsters miss out on having male role models. Here's Kevin Ashford.
Sound source. What does it mean by a sound source? Seb Baxter has been a primary school teacher for 5 years. As a male teacher, he's very much in a minority amongst his colleagues.
I think it's important that children get exposure to people of all types of backgrounds and all walks of life. Actually, I think that's a very valuable part of having a well-rounded education. And I think gender is a part of that they get opportunity to see male teachers and also female teachers.
In all our other years, we've had female teachers, and it's actually good to have different teachers for different things, different genders.
I think they're both equal because it shouldn't be. You shouldn't have a favourite teacher. They're all the same.
Even if it's your favourite female teacher, it might not be that fun. So it's just nice having to experience a male teacher.
The latest figures show that England's teaching workforce is consistently predominantly female, with women making up more than 3/4 of those in the profession. And research has shown that in the Meridian region, 25.9% of state-funded schools do not have a male classroom teacher.
So which ones for proportions?
The academic behind that research says the lack of male teachers could have significant consequences.
We know there's a lot of evidence that shows that role model effects are really important. And this is not necessarily true for everyone, because we know that a lot of boys have good role models at home, so they don't necessarily need that figure. But it is the case that not all young boys have a good male role model. And the case today is that actually many of these young boys won't have good role models in their home life or at school as well.
However, not all experts agree that a teacher's gender is critical. Emma Citron is a chartered member of the British Psychological Society.
I don't think we need a male role model as such. I just think we need good teachers who have traits like fairness, a sense of humour, good at putting across ideas and imbuing a love of learning in children. And it doesn't matter if they're male, female, trans or anything else.
Good, then put your ear in.
The government says the number of male teachers in primary schools has gradually increased since 2010, and it's working to ensure teaching is a career open to all. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Next, the ITV evening news continues with the national and international news at 6:30. With the details for us this evening, here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up in the programme, fleeing the fighting, the first group of British citizens rescued from Sudan lands in the UK. But thousands still await evacuation as the government faces criticism that other countries have acted more quickly. Also, backlash against the Bank of England after its top economist says we all need to accept that we're poorer. And the royal seal of approval, Charles and Camilla catch a glimpse of the Eurovision set. Do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
In sport, Brighton are in action tonight, playing for the first time since their FA Cup semi-final defeat to Manchester United on Sunday. Brighton have lost just 2 Premier League games this year and currently sit in 8th place. Tonight's match, struggling Nottingham Forest, will see the Seagulls keen to bounce back from defeat at Wembley and continue their quest for a record finish in the top flight.
In League One, Oxford United enjoyed a convincing win over Cheltenham at the Kassam Stadium last night to give Liam Manning his first victory since taking charge. Goals from Tyler Goodrum, Carl Joseph and Marcus Brown claimed a first win in 18 games for the U's, giving them a crucial 3 points in their bid to avoid relegation. They're currently 3 points off the bottom 4.
League Two, Swindon Town suffered a narrow defeat to Stevenage at the county ground. Jamie Reid was the match winner as Stevenage moved to within touching distance of a place in League One. Reid's 25th minute strike means Borough need just one more win to guarantee automatic promotion.
Now, she's among the best in the world in her sport, and now Bryony Pittman from Shoreham has been chosen to represent Great Britain in the Archery World Cup.
The rising star has a number of European and world titles to her name. She's now set her sights on qualifying for the Olympics in Paris next year. Here's Tom Savides.
Zero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
She's aiming for success on the international stage. Bryony Pittman from Shoreham is the world #2 in the recurve class of archery. She's been chosen to represent Team GB at the World Cup, with the finals taking place in September.
There was never any pressure to be good at archery, and it just so happened that kind of as I developed, I always wanted to win a World Championships, and so I put more time and energy into it.
Bryony trains at Worthing Archery Club, where she prepares for competitions. Here, she's shooting from a distance of 70 metres.
It can be frustrating when it's not going well. Obviously you're outside, so you've got to deal with all of the different weather conditions. So yeah, it's definitely got its challenges, but the rewards outweigh them massively.
There is an opportunity for Pittman to get...
Bryony picked up 2 gold medals and 1 silver at last year's World Cup.
Well, she's in the 8 as well.
She's hoping to strike it lucky again this year.
And it's Bryony Pittman of Great Britain who's taken a circuit gold for the first ever time.
Bryony has an extremely busy year ahead of her, with various competitions and tournaments taking place right across the world, and that's why she's putting in as much training as possible. Bryony started the sport aged 11, following in her dad's footsteps. Gary Kinghorn, a former world field archery champion. After this year's World Cup, Bryony will focus on her next big challenge, qualifying for the Olympics, where she's hoping to target gold. Tom Savides, ITV News, Worthing.
Now, a pioneering cancer surgeon who would give patients his mobile phone number and cut short his holiday if they needed him has retired after an extraordinary career.
Yes, Neil Pearce established a world-leading centre in Southampton operating to save lives when other doctors said there was no hope. But his own ill health forced him to stop. With more, here's Kerry Swain.
I've retired.
Leaving the hospital he joined as a student 38 years ago, the love patients and fellow doctors feel for this surgeon is clear. Neil Pearce specialised in pancreatic, liver and neuroendocrine tumours. He performed more than 1,000 major operations, introducing new techniques and procedures, developing a reputation for taking on cases others thought inoperable. Joe Green from Poole was diagnosed in 2011.
At 34, my disease was incurable. He made me feel safe and pretty much changed a devastating diagnosis into something that we thought we could manage, and nearly 12 years on, I'm still here.
I was always quite close to my patients, and so I was really heavily motivated to try and find solutions for them. I was quite happy to do things that weren't in the textbook and to give people a chance. I've got plenty of patients that are now getting on for decades out who are still in touch with me.
Multiple sclerosis forced Neil Pearce to stop operating. He became Associate Medical Director for Patient Safety in Southampton, opened a liver surgery unit in the Caribbean and founded Planet's Cancer Charity, raising £2 million. Being such an exceptional surgeon, it seems particularly cruel that MS cut short your career.
For me, the thing that really grounded me every time was going back to my cancer clinic and seeing my patients, the ones that I didn't have a solution for, the ones where we were really making the best of a bad deal. And if I compared their bad deal with my bad deal, very often I thought, well, I'm the lucky one in this room.
Neil Pearce trains surgeons across the country, ensuring his skills live on. He plans to continue his charity work and is getting married in September. Kerry Swain, ITV News.
Just an incredible man, and it kind of appears like not just one great career, but several great careers.
And
Amazing.
It just reminds us, these people are such a credit to the NHS.
Absolutely.
Well
We wish
done,
him
Neil.
all the best with his retirement and the wedding, of course. Now, Pip joins us in the studio. Some rather grey skies in the last few hours, of course, but you've got something to cheer us up a bit.
I have got something to cheer up those grey skies. I bring glad tidings from Salisbury Cathedral. They've had 4 peregrine chick eggs and 2 of them have now hatched. And I think we've got some footage from just a little earlier. There we go. You can just pick out the 2 little chicks there, little fluff balls, and Mum giving them a good old feed up. She's now sat on them, keeping them warm. So we've gone from the earlier footage rather than the live cam. But amazingly, the hatching process takes about 72 hours. So it's an awful lot of hard work. Fingers crossed we'll have a full brood by the time we get to the coronation weekend. And we're going to stick with the baby animal theme because why on earth not? Some lovely pictures coming in from our viewers at this time of year. And Judy spotted this trio on a walk through Slindon in West Sussex. I don't know about you, I spy some serious mischief there. Meanwhile, in David Haynes' garden in Selsey, the local fox cubs are enjoying it as a bit of a football playground. Absolutely adorable. And Roy spotted his first ducklings of the year in Basingstoke, enjoying a rare bit of April sunshine, it seems, and sticking close to Mum.
So how rare is the April sunshine? We're heading to May. Is it getting warmer? You kind of hinted that it might be.
Yeah, I can't promise a lot of sunshine, but I can promise a bit more warmth. The average at this time of year sits around 14 degrees Celsius. We've been below that for a good few days now, but you can see as we head through the weekend and in fact early into next week, temperatures will continue to rise. We could reach that magic 20 Celsius, yeah.
And looking ahead to the coronation, perhaps by then,
well,
for King
fingers
Charles?
crossed. It looks as though the trend is for temperatures to generally remain above average. So I'm just keeping everything crossed and hopefully we will see a bit of sunshine to come with it.
OK, Pip, thank you. Let's get the details now. Here she is.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
So with the first of several bank holidays now just ahead of us, this is how things are looking. Pretty changeable still over the next few days. Showers or longer spells of rain, but despite all of that, temperatures very much on the rise. Out there at the moment then, we're looking at fairly cloudy conditions, and although some clear spells will come and go overnight, I think it should be frost-free. Not quite as chilly as the last few nights, and lows even inland probably not getting much below 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. Now into tomorrow morning, and things look largely dry, if still rather cloudy to start the day. But as the morning wears on, we'll see outbreaks of rain arriving from the south and west, pushing their way steadily northeastwards through the course of tomorrow and perhaps becoming a little more persistent, especially so along the south coast through the afternoon. A bit breezier than today as well, but despite the cloud, the rain and the breeze, temperatures actually perhaps a little higher than they have been today, peaking at around 13, perhaps locally 14 Celsius. These are the times of high water for tomorrow. Then for Brighton, they're 4:15 in the morning and 4:59 in the afternoon. So that rain will continue on its journey northeastwards through the latter stages of tomorrow, but it should clear overnight. And actually, as we head into Friday, things look pretty promising. Again, quite a bit of cloud, but the emphasis on dry conditions. More of the same, I think, on Saturday. Showers on Sunday, but the temperatures on the rise for all.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
And that is it from us for this evening. The ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale is coming up shortly.
Stacey will have your late update and we'll both be back here tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Good night.
Bye-bye.